The Yetzer Hara feels threatened, so he comes to bother you. So if they're making noises outside, I say it's a good siman that what we're talking about is important. And the main thing is that it should actually increase your focus. So I'm going to ask again, please, don't do what they do in every audience I've ever spoken to, that when a cell phone goes off, everybody talks about why a cell phone went off during a speaker. And I think to myself, the talking about the cell phone is so much more disruptive than the cell phone. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so honestly, whispering to yourself about the chutzpah of the jackhammer is 100 times more distracting to me and to you than the jackhammer. So let the jackhammer, and it's only going to 2 b'diyuk, is what we hear. That's the reports that we have. We've got very reliable reports that it's only going to 2 b'diyuk. Okay, we'll see. At any rate, so we're talking about the tendency of masculinity to be escapist, to be aloof, to despise the real world. Nadav and Avihu are prime examples of spiritual escapists. Ben Azai from the 4 who entered the Pardes is another example. By the way, a Kohen Gadol, it's a halacha that when a Kohen Gadol would enter the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur in order to do the Avodah, he had to be married. He couldn't be single. So Al Pipnimi Yosei Inyan, it's for this reason. He has to have an anchor. He can't go into the holiest place in the world and not have an anchor to draw him back. So this all begins in Atzilos, where Kodesh Brichu is Kodesh Umuvdal, has no interest in Elamais Biyah, in the Bria Yetzira Asiya paradigm. He just wants to stay in Atzilos, and he's comfortable there. And then you have Malchus, which is the opposite. Malchus, what's Malchus? We learned about it in yesterday's Tanya. Malchus is Adnus, Ein Melech Blei Am. The Melech is the one who has a relationship with those beneath him, with his subjects. So Malchus is femininity. Malchus is the desire to have a relationship with those beneath her. Kodesh Brichu is not interested in that. He wants to hang out only with himself, basically, or with other people very, very much like him, but he's not interested in coming down. Malchus is the opposite. Ein Melech B'lei Am. The Melech wants a relationship with the Am. So Kodesh Brichu, because of his relationship or his attraction to Shechina, or Zah's attraction to Malchus, ends up through that yichud, then they make olamais, they make worlds. But on their own, they're going 2 separate directions. They're going 2 separate directions. Which is why, by the way, Chazal say, take a step down and take a wife. That's not a misogynistic statement about like marrying down or anything like that. It means get grounded, focus on, you have to leave. But a bacher should be teirasei munasei. A bacher in yeshiva should be living in Atzilus. But to get married and to join the real work of Dira B'Tachtenim, take a step down. That's not an insult, that's a compliment. The Eibishter made a Eilam Atachtein, a Eilam Haza Gashmi, and there's a purpose for it. So when a man gets married, that's when he truly becomes part of that work. His preparation for that is all the spiritual things he does as a bacher. But once he gets married, then it's the opposite. He's supposed to come down. At any rate, why does it say then, Shlach lecha anoshim, kulam anoshim? What else did I think it was? And the Alter Rebbe in Torah Oyer from this week's Chassidish Parsha tells us, what is the Torah saying? It's saying like this: who else but real anoshim? They were such anoshim. They went to Eretz Yisrael. They saw the opportunity to take this beautiful concept called Torah and live it, to apply it, to really, in every moment of the day, in your commerce and in your home life and in your farming, and they despised that. They weren't interested. They didn't see that was the whole purpose of Torah, was to apply it to Elam Hazeh, to apply it to Gashmios. They were such a nashim. That was such a masculine thing to not get that. To come back and say, no guys, let's stay in the midbar and let's do this spiritually. Let's just leave Torah as a philosophical construct. If the Meraglim would have been women, what does it mean that the women were chovevet et haaretz? It doesn't just mean Eretz Yisrael. It means a whole attitude of they get it, they understand. They understand that Torah is to live, Torah is to apply, Torah is in your day-to-day life. But without women, that's why women generally run Jewish homes. Because where is Yiddishkeit really applied? In the home. How did we survive 2,000 years of exile? Because of Jewish homes, because of Jewish mothers. Because you can have ideologies, you can have the scholars, but if no one's living a life based on that ideology, it doesn't survive. So we survived because we've had Jewish mothers and Jewish homes applying Torah to our day-to-day lives. Another way to put this, by the way, would be the difference between doing and being. Doing and being. Masculinity is doing, femininity is being. That's why, for instance, when you get called for an aliyah l'Torah, they call you by your father's name, Pliny ben Pliny. You know, there was a guy one time in a shul who was a gast in Stott. He was an unfamiliar face. The Gabbai wanted to give him an aliyah. So he says, Yameid, and the guy says, Rochel bas Tzipoira. The Gabbai says, don't clown around, what's your name? He says, Rochel bas Tzipoira. He says, I'm trying to give you an aliyah, I need to know your name. The guy says, I'm telling you, Rochel bas Tzipoira. He says, your name's not Rochel bas Tzipoira. The guy says, listen, business has been terrible lately, I had to put everything into my wife's name. When you get called up for an aliyah, you get called up Pliny ben Pliny. The man, the son of his father, who is also a man. Why? Because an aliyah is according to Shevet, Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. That's your function within Jewish society. Your Shevet is your function. It's what you do. Your father gives you what you do. So when you're called as Kohen, Levi, or Yisrael, when your function that you do is referred to, we refer to as the son of your father. However, when it comes to who you are, your identity, not what you do, who you are, your essence, the fact that you are Jewish, well, that you get from your mother. And then you are the son or daughter of your mother. Or like when the Rebbe would mention people who would write in, Shmai b'shem imai. Tell me who you are. What's your name? And your mother's name. Because that's who you are. So, masculinity is doing, and femininity is being. You can see that very clearly with the 6 days and Shabbos. We mentioned before that in Shemes it's called Kudshe B'richu and Shchinte. And in Partzufim and in Sfiros it's called Zoh and Malchus. And in time it's called 6 days and Shabbos. 6 days is doing, Shabbos is being. Shabbos is not doing, Shabbos is being. There's a Chabad house I know in the Far East where there's really no local community. It's all travelers, business travelers. And one thing you're not allowed to say to somebody Friday night is, what do you do? And there's a reason for that. First of all, because what do you do means, what's your ASIC, what's your business? And it's not Shabbos dik to speak business on Shabbos. But there's a deeper reason. Shabbos is not about doing. 6 days is about doing. Shabbos is about being. So don't ask what do you do, ask who you are, which is a complaint men often have, right? Nobody knows me, I'm just the machine that goes out and makes money, and I'm just known as what I do. But nobody knows me, no one knows who I am, which is an occupational hazard of being a man, is you identify with what you do and you forget who you are. Then comes one day which is feminine, and you have to stop doing so you can finally start being, which is Shabbos. Doing is a distraction from who you are. Which is, by the way, why many people can actually become mad from Shabbos. Because sometimes just be left raw without the distraction, without any way of doing and doing and doing and doing and running and running and running, and you're left there emotionally naked and you have to just be whoever you are, that can be unnerving for many people. But that's what Shabbos is. It's a day to stop doing and you have to start being. Particularly for men, it means to get in touch with their own femininity, which means literally it's a time to spend with the family and with your wife, and specifically, as a time for a husband and wife to be together. And then also spiritually, it's a time for a male to experience his own femininity, meaning you're not going to run off to work. You have nothing to do. Where are you running? You can daven as long as you want on Shabbos. As long as you go home and you also spend time at the table with the family, with the kids. You're not running anywhere to do anything. Shabbos, you can just be. So you ever notice when a man realizes that his wife is upset with him? Generally speaking, at the minimum 3 hours after she first becomes upset with him. I'm being generous there by saying 3 hours. So he realizes that she's upset with him. So what does he say to her? He says, why are you upset? And what does she say to him? I'm not upset. No, so he says, come on, you are upset. She says, no, I'm not upset. He says, I see you're upset. So then she says, it's nothing. Then he becomes a Gemara cup. He's Medayik B'Lashono. He says, it's nothing. So there's an it. So, what is it? She says, I don't want to talk about it. Just tell me what it is. Why is he harassing her? Is he a mean person? No. So why is he harassing her? He wants to fix it. So if you don't tell me what it is, what am I supposed to do? Just, don't you understand the problems you're creating? Tell me what it is. I'll do something about it. But you're not going to tell me what it is. How am I supposed to do anything about it? So it's really your fault, actually. And if she's still talking to him at that point, she might say to him, listen, I don't need you to do anything. I just want you to be there for me. And he's thinking in his mind, you wouldn't dare say this to her, but he's thinking, I know what each one of those words means on their own, but when you put them in a sentence, I want you to be there for me, I have no idea what it means. How do you do that? I know how to do there. I don't know how to be there. How do you be there? What does that mean? What do you do when you're being? This is crazy. So he makes these awkward attempts, and you have to be compassionate. Women, this is a skill set which is antithetical to your husband's spiritual essence. Have compassion on him. When he learns how to do this, it can take decades of awkward trial and error. Have compassion. It is antithetical. It is essential to you. It is antithetical to him. He's trying to figure out, what does that mean just to be there? So he makes these awkward attempts at it. So he says, okay, so I have to be here. So what does he do? There's two versions of it. One is this. I'm here, right? And the guys are thinking, yeah, you look like, I see you. You're still there. The women are like, no, you're not still there. What, I disappeared? Like David Copperfield, I disappeared in front of your eyes. But you take out the tail limb and you start saying, you're gone, you're not there. Or the other version, the modern version of it. I'm here. I'm here. I'm right here. You see me. I'm right here. No, you're not there. You're not being there. What am I not doing? What's wrong? No, you have to. You have to really be there. So then he gets frustrated. He thinks, look, you have nothing for me to do. I'm not allowed. I have to sit here with someone who's upset at me and do nothing. This is really uncomfortable. I can't take this. I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave. I have my phone on me. You know I have my phone on me because I was just playing with it a second ago. When you think it's something for me to do, you text me, I will come running back and do it. And she thinks, or she says, you just don't get it. And he thinks, or he says, you're right, I don't get it. I have no idea. What do you want from me? So eventually at one point he realizes, okay, you know what you're supposed to do? See, an animal has two reactions. Human being also has them, but human beings have other options. When someone's mad at you, especially your wife, you guys don't realize, by the way, you think that he doesn't realize how scary it is that you're mad at him. You underestimate it. You have to multiply it 1,000,000 times. It is extremely uncomfortable for any man to have his wife be disgruntled with him. You don't realize how much that rattles him. Whatever you think it rattles him 1,000,000 times more. You can say, no, it doesn't rattle him. To the contrary, he gets all aggressive and he gets tough and he starts being macho. That's a defense mechanism because he's terrified. You're scaring him. I just want to tell you. You think you don't scare him? He's scared of you. He's scared of you. I'm telling you. Maybe it's some Freudian thing about mommy. I don't know. not a psychologist, but he's scared. Trust me. So, at any rate, he's uncomfortable with the fact you're upset with him. He doesn't like that. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do, and you want him to just be there for you. And eventually, he may figure out that what he's actually supposed to do. He's supposed to sit there in the same room. He can't distract himself. He can't say Tehillim. He can't go on his phone, okay? Because that's checking out. That's physically being present, but emotionally, mentally, you checked out. You're not there. But he can't solutionize for you. Can't try to fix it for you. So the animal response, the adrenaline rush, because he's scared right now, is fight or flight. I have two options. If I'm an animal, I have two options: fight or flight. So fight doesn't have to mean actual fight, but it could just mean becoming confrontational about it. Fighting could just mean like trying to debate your way out of it. But what I'm saying is go into the thing that's scaring you. Try to convince her that you didn't really do what she says you're doing, right? That's fight. Or flight is, this is uncomfortable, I'm getting out of here. And that's more often than not, that's the male response, is flight as opposed to fight. Is like, somebody once said, how do you fight with your wife? With your hat. You put it on and walk out the door. Okay, that's not healthy advice. That plays into the male desire of escapism is, let me get out of here, this is an uncomfortable place to be. Yeah, well, the home is a microcosm or a metaphor for this entire world, for Dirub Tachtenim. You're right, Elam Hazeh is an uncomfortable place to be. The neshama didn't want to come down here, but it mirrors the entire struggle of the neshama to have to force itself to come to terms with being here and now in the real world, or in the physical world. All the worlds are real, but in the world is real phenomenologically to our five senses, which is where the Eibishter wants a dirub. So he has to say, I'm not going to be an animal, I'm not going to fight or flight, I'm not going to argue with her, and I'm not going to run away. So what's option 3? The animal doesn't have the third option. Third option is uniquely human, it's a spiritual option, which is, I'm going to sit here even when my adrenaline is rushing and telling me that I've got to run or I've got to fight, and I'm going to do none of the above. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm not going to distract myself either with saying Tehillim or with looking at the phone. I'm just going to totally be present and not offer any solutions, not offer any advice, just be present and totally available. And that's what it means to be there. And a remarkable thing will occur 9 times out of 10. They did a study. No, I'm joking. Do you know that 73% of all statistics